Well, Happy New Year, friends. And it strikes me one of the real blessings in disguise from COVID was that we started doing what we're doing now, putting online on social media these midweek snippets. And the point of these is not to present you with some polished production, but as the tagline in these says, it's to give you a bite-sized nugget of what it looks like to see and experience Jesus in just everyday life outside of Sunday morning life. And this is so important because even if Sunday worship is like a regular part, routine space in your life, the routine space of life outside of Sunday morning is a whole lot bigger and tends to get inundated by stuff where what it has to do with Jesus and being his follower is at least not very obvious, and often because it has nothing really to do with that. Recently I read something that for Gen Zers, which is teens and 20-something young adults who are regularly involved in a church, they will get an average of 153 hours per year of what the surveyors labeled as spiritual teaching and 2,700 hours per year of screen time. Now, hopefully some of those 2,700 hours have some kind of positive spiritual import, and so this is what we're trying to do in this space, to put something into those hours that's of good import. So let me give a quick and again, relatively unpolished example of how in this screen space we're trying to model some of how to experience Jesus in ordinary life. And to do that, I want to just focus on what I was reading this morning, which is actually tomorrow's passage in our daily Bible reading reflection guide. And what I do with this and encourage others to do is to read a passage and ask really some simple questions like, what's the passage say? What's it mean or imply for anyone who is trying to take the Bible seriously? And what might God be especially saying to me? Well, this passage was an interesting one. It's in James chapter 5, and it starts like this. It says, "Now listen, you rich people, weep and wail because of the misery that's coming upon you." And so first I read that, I thought, well, this doesn't apply to me because rich people, and I certainly don't want to think about misery that's coming upon me. But then I get thinking about it, well, compared to 90% of the world, yeah, I am rich. And so to the extent that that you or I have any kind of wealth at all, what might this be saying to us about that? Well, something it doesn't say, and the Bible generally doesn't say, is that being rich is a really bad thing per se. It doesn't say that. But what might a passage like this be saying, and through it, what God might be saying to us about our wealth? Well, one thing that it makes clear is that material blessings are temporary. He says here in verse 2 he says how moths are going to eat your clothes and your gold and silver are going to corrode. And really that's true of everything, all our material wealth. It's either going to rust or wear out or break. That's just true of it all. It's temporary. And then he calls these folks out for not paying their workers fairly. Apparently he's writing to some landowners, some farmers. And first I thought, well, man, I'm not a farmer. I don't have people working farm hands for me, so it doesn't apply to me. But then I got to thinking, okay, do I ever have anybody do anything for me that I ought to pay them for, like fix my car or my computer or things like that? And the answer is, well, yeah, I do. And the question is then, do I pay them fairly? And then finally, James, he calls these folks out for he calls them self-absorbed and hoarding. All they're caring about, they're so focused on getting and keeping more for themselves. And so I've got to ask myself, is that my focus with respect to wealth and material things? Or do I really see myself as a steward, that I'm seeking to use the blessings I've been given in this area and to honor God and to bless other people? Which of course is not to say that you can't use some of that I can't use some of that for my own comfort, for my own pleasure, but is that my focus? Well, again, friends, material things, wealth, riches, this has something to do with real life, doesn't it? And it's a part of real life that James here and the Bible generally has some things to tell us about how we can see Jesus and serve Jesus in this real life stuff. Well, again, friends, thank you so much for your time today, and Happy New Year.